Oops. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Community in Citrus Heights, where all are welcome and differences are celebrated as the splendor of God's creative expression. Let us open our service by taking a moment to appreciate all of those who are in our lives now, those whose presence has blessed us in the past, and those who gave their lives protecting this majestic country. And we savor the richness of our personal community this morning and also this community. And we draw each other into our circle of love as we recognize our oneness in God. I'm Lisa Lawson, and I'm a licensed Unity teacher here at Unity Spiritual Community, as well as the Minister of Music. And today we are honored to be joined by our friend Reverend Bob Brach, who is one of our wonderful reverends in this region. He was ordained in 2009 and was among the first group of Unity Institute's graduates to earn a Master's of Divinity. And he's been a regular speaker throughout, especially now in Northern California. He formerly hosted the Unity online radio show, Unity Classic Radio, Words from Our Past, featuring unpublished talks and lessons of Unity's co-founder, Charles Fillmore. Yeah, so ask him if you have any questions about Unity or Charles Fillmore. He conducts C classes and workshops, and he's the Unity Bible instructor for the Unity Urban Ministerial School ordination path. He also leads gentle yoga classes and has his doctorate degrees in Theology and Interfaith Studies. So thank you for joining us, Bob. Welcome. Yeah. And now I'd like to invite our other licensed Unity teacher, Sylvia Wheeler, to read today's daily word.
Okay. Yes, my name is Sylvia Wheeler, and today is Sunday, May 26, 2024, and the word for today is comfort. I am comforted, and our affirmation is, I am comforted by the embrace of divine love. When someone dear to me transitions, I may feel fearful and alone. I do not hide from my feelings or seek to numb them, even if I feel tempted. Grief has come to pass, but it cannot pass until I acknowledge it and feel it. Opening to all my heart is holding. I feel a presence far stronger than pain. Even in deepest grief, divine love is strong within me, lifting me, making my feelings bearable. As I feel comforted by this love, I become increasingly aware of the peace and strength in my heart. Even in my grief, I am grateful to trust the healing comfort of divine love. It blesses me today, excuse me, and will be an ongoing presence as I need it. My love for those I lost is eternal, excuse me, and unchanging, eternal and unchanging, just like God's love for me. And our scripture, this comes from scripture. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And that is from Matthew chapter 5, verse 4. I will inject a personal note here that 3 years ago I lost my husband, who was an Air Force pilot in the Second World War. So this is especially meaningful for me, and I appreciate reading this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. And now please join me in singing Be Still and Know. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know. Be still and know that you are God. Be still and know that you are. Be still and know that you are God. Be still and know. Be still and know that we are God. Be still and know that we are. Be still and know that we are God. Be still and know. All right, thank you. Okay. So we welcome each one of you who's here with us today at Sylvan Community Center or on Zoom. We have our friends on Zoom here. Or on YouTube Live. We're on YouTube now instead of Facebook Live. And we know that each one of you is here by divine appointment. Yeah. And we thank you for adding to the joy of our Sunday service this morning. If it's your first time here with us today, be sure that Brian, our usher, will give you a welcome packet. And we have a sign up in the lobby where if you place your email address, we'll make sure you get our weekly newsletter. So be looking for that. And now we have a moment at which we take the time to greet each other, and we stand up and do that. But I just want to remind you that Unity people often like to give hugs, but sometimes we don't. So we just may want to offer a namaste or a handshake or a hello. And so I invite you to go ahead and stand and greet each other now. And remembering that your cue to return to your seat is the music. higher place. No more downward, no more darkness, no more wondering the point of it all. My life is destined, oh, for greatness. My soul has answered the call. Up, up, up to a higher place. Up, 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 far beyond this time and place. Up, up, up to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Yeah. Okay. And at this time, we draw our attention to the prayer request in the blue box in the lobby. So we have this little box so that you may leave your personal prayer requests. And we also have prayer chaplains. Stevie Kaplinger is here today, and Sylvia is a prayer chaplain, and I am. And so you may approach any one of us, and we will go aside for personal prayer after service with you. We love to pray with you. You can also email us at info@unitycitrusheights.org if you'd like a personal phone call. And we have a wellness calling phone list that we call about once a month. So let us know if you'd like to be on that. So at this time, we draw all of those people, all of those concerns that we have for ourselves, for our loved ones, for things happening in the world. We bring those into the energy of the Christ Spirit this morning. We affirm that all of everyone in our oneness, we are standing in the light and the love of God. We affirm that each one has everything he or she needs because they are the eternal Christ presence, divinity expressing, and the source of all life, all love, all power is infinitely available to each one of us. We open to understanding this morning, to the greater knowledge of the greater good happening in each situation. We lift these prayers into the living Christ presence. And so it is, and it is done. Thank you, God. Amen. Right. And now, would you please prepare with me for a time of meditation? Oh, Spirit, guide me deep inside me. Take me to my heart place, the place of ease and grace. Breathe in this moment, this sacred moment. I am peace. I am renewed.
As we move into this period of meditative reflection, I invite you to sit comfortably on your chairs. And if you're at home watching on your TV or computer screen, sit comfortably on your computer screen, computer chair. And you can close your eyes or let your gaze be softly forward, using soft eyes, seeing nothing in particular, focusing, but taking everything in. And I invite you to take a nice gentle breath of air in. And any cares or concerns or worries from that past week, this weekend ahead of us, see them mixed with that air in our lungs. And as we exhale, send those worries, cares, and concerns up to the ceiling, to that big blue sky, to be whisked away for the next hour or so, and we can be fully present right here for our service. And I invite you to take another breath of air in and follow that air down into our heart center. Our heart, that wonderful physical organ that sends blood to every cell of our being. And if there's any part of our body temple that needs that healing hand of Spirit, I invite you to see Spirit-filled, love-filled blood flowing to that area, bathing it in a blue-white light bubble of healing energy, bringing about healing and wholeness in the right and perfect time and in the right and perfect way. And if there's anything in our life, any person, any place, anything, any event that needs the healing hand of Spirit, I invite you to see it very clearly in your mind's eye. And see that person, that place, that thing, that event bathed in a blue-white light bubble of healing, spiritual energy, bringing about the right and perfect solution in the right and perfect way and in the right and perfect way. Bringing our attention back to our heart center. And Jesus of Nazareth, when asked by his disciples, saying, "Lord, teach us how to pray," he told them to go within to the closet of their being. Shut the door to the outside world, and your Father, which hears in secret, speaks in a small, still voice, but rewards openly. So we've gone to the closet of our being, our heart center. We mentally shut the door to the outside world, and we listen in a period of silence for that small, still voice, or images flashing across the screen of our mind, or thoughts flitting through our mind, as we gently rest in the silence. And now we bring our attention back to our physical bodies. We feel the pressure of our feet on the floor, the pressure of our body against the chair. And perhaps in that brief period of silence, we heard something like a small, still voice, or images flashed across the screen of our mind, or thoughts flitted through our mind, or perhaps not. But we have made ourselves open and available to Spirit. And perhaps later today, a book we're reading, a movie we're watching on TV, an email we get from a friend, a phone call from a friend, will speak silently to what is Spirit calling us to do during this wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And now we gently open our eyes and become fully present for the rest of our service and some beautiful music by our Lisa.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for all of us, and in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all of us. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Spirit, Holy Spirit, quite enough joy for all of us, and in this very room there's quite enough love for all of us, and there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, mind, spirit is in this very room, and in this very room there's quite enough power for all of us, and in this very room there's quite enough peace for all of us, and there's quite enough hope and quite enough love to chase away any gloom. For spirit, divine spirit is in this very room.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Well, I'm glad to be back here again. And my wife, Reverend Margie Brach, sends her hi and hello. And I am continually amazed at how Spirit works in these services. You know, I send Lisa a title of my talk and maybe a few sentences on the theme of it. And then I see these songs that she's picked out and how, oh my God, they just work together. And it's like, you know, they're planted in our psyche here. And as you'll hear what you need to hear from my talk, and I just put them all together. Wow, Spirit works. Well, the title of my talk is Memorial Day, Remembering the Past and Dealing with Change. Wow. Memorial Day. Well, you know, our Memorial Day had its beginning way back in 1865. A group of freed slaves, immediately after the cessation of the Civil War, the hostilities, in Charleston, South Carolina, decided to exhume the graves, mass graves of these Union soldiers. They were held in a prisoner of war camp at this racetrack in Charleston, South Carolina, and they were all dumped in a mass grave. So these freed slaves exhumed the body, placed them in their own separate little graves, and built a fence around it and a little archway, and they called it the Union Cemetery. And they wanted to celebrate their work that they did, and also the end of the Civil War, which brought them freedom. And they decided to have a big festivities. So for 3 days, they had sermons, they had singing, they had dancing, they had barbecues. And the Charleston newspaper has recorded that there were 10,000, mostly freed black slaves, that came to this celebration. You know, throughout the years, these celebrations to honor the dead in war were held on, and in 1971, a public law codified it, and it made the last Monday in May would be our Memorial Day. And it was originally designed to honor those that had passed in warfare and keeping our country safe. But wow, over the years that's changed a bit too. And memorials are a kind of healing. This morning I was sitting in my meditation chair, and when I got finished, I happened to look into my dining room area, and up in the cabinet, I could see this little urn. And in that urn are the ashes of our cat, Dumbledore. And Margie had taken a ceramics class, made this urn. And yeah, we adopted him from the Sacramento SPCA. He was a senior cat. I was a senior, so we had a free adoption. Then we bought stock in Petco, and he had some vet challenges. So our free cat was a little more than free. But as I was looking at that, I remembered all the happy times. I looked over at the couch, and I could see in my mind's eye sitting on the couch in the sun right across from me. So just a wonderful, it's great to have these little memories. And Memorial Day is kind of one way we kind of really go into it. The unofficial meaning of Memorial Day, it started off being a day to honor the dead in warfare. And then it expanded out to all our men and women. Like tonight, there's going to be a concert in Washington, D.C., honoring the men in the military. It's kind of expanded out, too, that we would honor those people that helped us in our lives. When I was growing up, we would visit the graves on that Memorial Day weekend. I know Margie's parents and her sisters, they did the same thing out here in California, remembering the people that helped to support us in our lives. And also, it's a day when we have a big sporting event, the Indy 500, back in 1911. Every year it's been run, I think, except for the war years, 1911 to the present. And they used to be called the Brickyard. And to remember their heritage, there's a section, I think, right by the starting line of these bricks, so people can remember the Brickyard. So Memorial Day is about remembering things, remembering our past. And sometimes remembering our past can be good, and sometimes not so good. Margie wanted to see where I grew up in Chicago. And I said, okay, but we need to go during the daytime. So we drove back to my old neighborhood in Chicago, and sure enough, some of the old buildings were there, but the apartment building that I grew up in, this 4-flat, it was gone. The city had bought the block in which I lived, knocked it all down, and built a brand new high school, the Frederick Douglass High School. And the one warming thing is I looked at the address of this high school, and it was my old address, 543 North Waller Avenue. And I was thinking, wow, every day hundreds of kids go to high school to the same address that I used to go when I was growing up. Yeah, no, Margie wanted to go to Millennial Park. And I said, where's that? She says, well, you're from Chicago. I had never heard of Millennial Park because after I had moved away, they decided to rename part of Grant Park Millennial Park. So we went down and see, and there's this big chrome dome thing there. And yeah, I remember looking at Grant Park. I remember running up down the hills as a phys ed major in the University of Illinois for a conditioning class. So remembering the past, it can have pleasant memories. Oh yeah, and I was looking in my grammar school. It's still there, St. Lucy's Grammar School, but it wasn't St. Lucy's anymore. Some other church had taken over. And I got to stand in the parking lot, or the schoolyard was now a parking lot, and remembering throwing the softball with one of our 7th grade teachers. I can't remember her name, it's a nun. Sisters of Mercy were our instructors. And sometimes that Sisters of Mercy were kind of a misnomer, but anyway, she was out there playing softball with us, and I remember all those fond memories. And then some of the not so good remembers too, you can come there. But, when we look at our past, the good is going to come up with some of the not so good at times. There's a saying in 12-step programs, we will not regret the past, but wish to shut the door on it. We will see how that can benefit others. So when some of those negative things come up there, look at it and say, okay, wow, how did I get through that? Or what can I do? And next thing you know, somebody shows up in our life with something very similar. You say, hey, this is what I did. Here's my experience, my strength, and my hope with that. And this common thing is change in Memorial Day. We look at our lives, people that had come into it and gone out of it. We looked at events that we had and things that we don't have now. This morning I was in the bathroom buttoning up my white shirt, and I looked in the mirror and I saw my dad. So, oh my God, that's my dad. He used to have this white shirt they used to wear when they'd work, and my hair's got the little speckles, the brown stuff's gone, a little gray in there. But yeah, as things get older, we have to accept where we are. I work out at the YMCA weight room, and no longer am I grabbing those big heavy weights. I'm saying, no, we're going to do lighter ones. We have to accept where we are in our change. And this big thing in change is, our physical bodies change. I remember hearing in some of my biology classes that every 7 years, our body is renewed. And, technically, some of the cells, like our nerve cells in our brain, they live for life. But some of the others, like our white blood cells, 3 or 4 days, they're gone. So that every 7 years, we're supposedly having like a complete new body, or most of it. So even when we leave this room, after being here for about an hour, some of the cells in our body has died, and some new ones came up. So we're going to leave this room a different person. Wow. One of the stories, Lisa mentioned I'm the Bible teacher for the Unity Urban Ministerial School out of Detroit, Michigan. And it's one of the 3 ordination paths to become an ordained Unity minister. There's a school at the Unity Worldwide Ministries, there's a Unity Urban School, and then there's a field ministry program that people are in ministry that can actually get through. So, and they have classes and courses they got to take too. So every term I have 10 weeks with these wonderful Unity ministers in training and working through all the Bible. And this last term I had Search for the Historical Jesus, wonderful class I put together. So, we are each other's teachers. And these students, as I read their posts on my stuff, and oh my God, reminds me of when I was in school and helps keep that learning fresh in my mind. And one of the stories from the Hebrew Bible caught my attention for this particular talk. It's a story from the Hebrew Bible, the book of Ruth. Now, the 2 main characters in this book of Ruth are Ruth, of course, who's a Moabitess, and Naomi, an Israelite. Naomi had moved to Moab with her husband and her 2 sons, and her 2 sons had married Moabite women. And as life would have it, her husband died, her 2 sons died, and she was left with her 2 daughter-in-laws. And she looked at her daughter-in-laws and she says, I'm an old woman. I can't really do anything for you. And back in those times, being a widow or an orphan, there was no social programs like we have now to support them. So they're kind of at the lower end of the spectrum and having nobody to take care of them. So Naomi says, I'm going back to my homeland. And one daughter-in-law says, okay, and she went on her way. But Ruth says, no, please. I want to come with you. Where you will go, I will go. Where you will live, I will live. Your gods will be my gods. And Naomi said, okay. So for many days they traveled from Moab back down to Bethlehem, where Naomi was from. And when they arrived there, Ruth said, this is the barley harvest. I will go out and see if I can gather some barley from the fields and make some bread for us so we can live. And the ancient Israelites, they had a way of, when they did their fields and that, they would leave the corners untouched so the poor people could actually come and gather food from these things. So Ruth shows up at this one field and she started gleaning from the barley, asked the workers if she could, and they said, of course. And the owner of the field was a man named Boaz. And Boaz showed up and said to his workers, who's this woman? And I think Ruth was a pretty cute little gal, too. It caught his attention. She said, she came with that older woman, Naomi, who I believe is one of your relatives. So he told his workers, okay, leave some extra grain for her to pick up and take care of her while she's here. So over their time, they became friends, and they shared some food together when he'd come to visit. And one evening, Naomi said, get dressed, and I want you to go to the threshing floor where Boaz is going to be. Apparently, when they're threshing the grain over the night, he was there so nobody would take the grain, and he slept there. So she stole in where he was sleeping and laid down at his feet. And when he woke up, he was a little startled, and he says, what are you doing here? He said, Naomi sent me. And she says, look, you are one of Naomi's relatives, or only relative. Would you please take care of us? And Boaz said, no problem, I'll take care of you. And as it turns out, Boaz and Ruth got married. And she was the great-grandmother of the King David of Israel. And in the lineage of David, Jesus of Nazareth was his protege. So there's this idea of change. And I'm a homeboy. Next week, we're going to go on some travel out to the East Coast. And I can get fearful of travel. Oh my God, there's areas, growing up in Chicago, there are areas in Chicago that I was a little hesitant of going. And going to an area I'm not sure of, I get a little hesitant. But here I'm reflecting on Ruth. She left her home in Moab to go to a foreign country where she knew no one except Naomi, and eke out a life for herself. So I heard something the other day about fear and faith too, that they're fearful of going somewhere, and they said, no, I need to latch on to my faith. And I think you called out faith from one of the 12 powers. Yeah. So we can latch on to that faith. So dealing with change, how do we deal with change? Wow. One of the things that I learned in ministerial school was denials and affirmation. And Ruth had kind of personified it. He says, where you will go, I will go. She denied the power of leaving and stepped into the accepting where she was going to go. When I was in school, every year we had what was called licensing and ordination interviews. They called it love and order, but it's an oral interview. I was terrified. So I remember in this one, we were down on the first floor of the education building, and there was 4 gals. I can still kind of see their faces, and she says, Bob, what do you do if the principles, these Unity principles, aren't working in your life? And I looked at them like deer in the headlights. And this one said, I'll give you a hint. I said, okay. She says, DNA. What do those little mitochondria things in my genes have to do with the Unity principles? And she says, no, Bob. D and A. Denials and affirmations. Oh, okay, now I got it. Man, I ran with that answer, and they were pleased with that. So, when we're dealing with change, denials and affirmation, not denying the existence of a situation, but denying that power of that situation over us and affirming the good. Denials are like sweeping away the cobwebs. Affirmations are powerful statements of truth. And you read from the Daily Word today, a powerful affirmation on the word of comfort. That's all. So if you wonder what an affirmation is, pull out the Daily Word and read the top line. That's a powerful affirmation. Another thing is to look for the good. When Ruth showed up in Bethlehem, she says, this is the barley harvest. I'm going to go out and gather some barley. Now, she probably had no idea about gathering barley, but she looked for the good, and she went out and did it. Charles Fillmore had I used to read these unpublished talks of Charles Fillmore for about 14 years. Wow. I speak in Charles every 2 weeks. And I remember when I was first starting, I was at the Village, and Eric Page, who was the archivist at the Village, helped me get these PDFs together, and I said, I don't know if I can talk like this. If you've ever been to the Village, they had this recording of Charles Fillmore, and he had this real grasply voice. And Eric said, Bob, he didn't talk that way all his life. So anyway, so I got to read his talks, and it's interesting, our voices are familiar. I was in the Unity Inn one time, and this fellow shows up, and he's got a heavy Hispanic accent. He says, are you Reverend Bob Brach? And I said, yeah. He says, I'm from Argentina. I listen to your radio show all the time, and I recognize your voice. He didn't know my voice, but he recognized my voice. So anyway, Charles, in one of his talks in 1930, had quoted something, and he says, you can find among our evildoers people who really take pleasure in doing evil. You can find among our evildoers people who really take pleasure in doing evil. They have been trained that way. Their minds don't know anything else. Then he went on to say, but could they change that mind? Certainly. What would change it? The right idea. The idea that they could get happiness and harmonies out of the love of God. That there is a great principle here. Wow. So Charles says, yeah, we can change our thinking by looking for the God in it. Some years ago, I was at this Brethren church in Danville, California. And we had men's meetings, men's dinners, I think every Friday or something like that. And there was this one fellow called Rick. And Rick, he was one of these guys, he could see the good in everything. You know, I was still on active duty at that time in the military. And, you know, sometimes our military humor can be at somebody else's expense. And I would tell these stories which were really humorous, and Rick would stand there and say, you know, Bob, that's not really that friendly. You know, I had dealing with civilians in my life, oh my goodness. But, you know, he was able to see some of the error in my way of thinking that things are really humorous at somebody else's expense, and it's not. So that's the second way, looking for good, dealing with change, and gratitude. I'm amazed at your song, We Are Grateful. Oh my goodness, see, spirit working. Go for gratitude. When Ruth was at the fields and Boaz was there and giving her the stuff, she said, you're very kind to a foreigner. Because Moabs were foreigners to the people living in Israel. And he says, well, you've helped my relative Naomi. May God bless you and reward you for your kindness. So being grateful for stuff that comes in our life, no matter what it may be. And sometimes things happen in our life and you go, where is the good in this? Sometimes I'm reading the paper at our breakfast thing, and Margie will say to me, honey, are you in the oh my section? Because I'm going, oh my, look at this. She says, hey, look for the good in it. So Eric Butterworth, one of our longtime Unity ministers from New York, has quoted as saying, there's not one spot where God is not. There's not one spot where God is not. So that in this very room, we know God is here. God is out there on the freeway when I'm going home. God is in our house. God is wherever we're going today. The Apostle Paul, in writing to the people in Thessalonica, reminded him to be joyful always, pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you. Be joyful always. Look for the joy. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances. You know, two of the prayer or practical things that Margie and I do, every night when we're in bed, we tell each other 5 things that we did right. 5 things that we did right. And there are times when, like if we're on a trip, we'll do gratitude lists. We'll take the alphabet and go through it. Say something that we were grateful for with A, and with B, and with C. And we'll not go back and forth. So being grateful, looking at your life and saying, I'm grateful for this stuff. So as we move through this Memorial Day weekend, you know, let's remember our military members who have given the ultimate sacrifice, as well as the men and women who are serving for us now. Remember our family and friends who have helped us to get here where we are today. And in dealing with change, and who isn't, perhaps the words of Reverend Paul Hasselbeck, who was a SEE instructor back at the village and one of my teachers. He said, it's not so much the unanswered questions that keep us in the dark. It's the unquestioned answers that keep us stuck in conventional thinking. It's not so much the unanswered questions that keep us in the dark. It's the unquestioned answers which keep us in conventional thinking. And our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, one of his favorite Bible verses were, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So as we move through this Memorial Day weekend, I invite you to be transformed by the renewal of your mind as you remember the past and look forward to the future. Namaste, dear ones.
Thank you, Reverend Bob. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever seen, everything I've lost or won, everything I've ever dreamed has brought me here to the present moment, here to a new beginning, here, and I'm seeing life so clearly now. Get ready, we have so much gratitude today for each one of you, for those of you who are on Zoom and those who are traveling this weekend, for all of your gifts that help support Unity Spiritual Community, who help us make a difference in the world. So we are preparing for an offering now. Brian's standing up, and lately we have just been making sure that even though we have tables and things, we just pass the bag through each person. You pass it one to each other. Brian's going to give it up and pass it through you, so that even if you're not giving your financial gifts today, many of you do make them online, we're just blessing our offering. We see all of the offerings that you give, whether online or here at Sylvan Community Center, just surrounded with that love and lifted and empowered to do good in this world. So in this great circle of life, we do open our hearts and give generously and joyfully, knowing that we are also open to receive all the gifts of the universe. And so knowing we bless these offerings and all that they provide, and we're going to say this affirmation that's on our slide together. I give thanks for my new vision of God as my infinite, constant, abundant source. And let's just take a minute to say that all together. Everybody. I give thanks for my new vision of God as my infinite, constant, abundant source. And so we do know and we affirm that it is so. Thank you, Brian. And let us now sing Divine Love Flowing Through Me as we bless our offering. Oh, it's not in there. Okay. Well, those of you who know it. Divine love flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all I receive, and all that I am. Do it again. Divine